Good night, everybody. This is Rob Desai with the tropical update for Friday, or it will be Saturday now, September 15th, 2018. As we took a look at the Atlantic Basin, we still have the same storms that we've been talking about over the past several days in Tropical Storm Isaac, Tropical Storm Joyce, Tropical Storm Helene, and, of course, formerly Hurricane Florence, but now downgraded to Tropical Storm Florence. Now let's begin with taking a look at first Invest 95L, which is apparently no longer an invest. Last I checked, it had a 0% chance of development, and now there is absolutely no chance at all, as it has been interacting with land, and it's too late for it to develop now as it did not get its act together in time. But if we go to the 5-day forecast here, we do have this one area that will be developing or forming near Bermuda at the beginning of next week, and there's only a 10% chance of development over the next 5 days. However, it may increase as we get closer to that time frame. However, it does say that any additional development is expected to be slow as the system meanders in this area. As we go to our tropical storms now, first beginning with Tropical Storm Joyce, which is surprisingly holding its own and actually has been strengthening over the past several hours. It is now a tropical storm with winds of 50 miles per hour, and it is now fully tropical and does no longer have the subtropical label to it. And over the next several days, it's going to slowly make its way eastward into the open Atlantic and is not a threat to any landmass. Now, the NHC does have it peaking at 60 miles per hour winds. However, it does have it dissipating by hour 96, and again, it will be no threat to land. If we look at the satellite loop over the past several hours, you can see that Joyce has definitely been more organized than it has been over the past day or two since it formed, as there is now finally convection over the center of circulation, and it's all doing this despite wind shear of up to 30 to 40 knots over Joyce. So it's very impressive what it's doing right now. However, again, it's not a threat to any land, so there is no need to worry. On the other hand, we also have Tropical Storm Helene just to the east of Joyce, and that has winds currently of 70 miles per hour, and it was originally forecast to pass directly over the Azores. However, now it is forecast to move north of the Azores, and that is why the tropical storm warnings that were once in place for the Azores have now been dropped. And however, Helene will still bring some gusty winds and heavy rain to the area as it makes its way northeastward and then eventually loses tropical characteristics and becomes extratropical, and then it will impact Ireland and the United Kingdom. If you look at the satellite for Helene, you can clearly see that it's going under the extratropical transition now, as all the convection and thunderstorm activity is on the north side of the storm, and there is little to none on the south side of the storm now as it's drying out, and that's typical of most extratropical cyclones. Now looking at Tropical Storm Isaac. Actually, Isaac was downgraded to a depression earlier today. However, there has been some recent thunderstorm activity suddenly around the center, which is why the NHC has had to upgrade again to a tropical storm, a minimal tropical storm, however, with winds of 40 miles per hour, but a tropical storm nonetheless. It's moving to the west at 15 miles per hour, and the NHC still, however, does have it dissipating by Monday evening. However, it's not out of the question yet that it may regenerate at some point later on, maybe perhaps further in the Western Caribbean or into the Gulf of Mexico. If you look at the satellite for Isaac, you can see that Isaac was looking fairly impressive at the beginning of the radar loop here. However, towards the end now, it's looking less disorganized as the thunderstorm activity has died down. However, there's some more thunderstorms firing over here close to the center, so it may be trying to hold its own, and it may still hold on to tropical storm strength at least for a little bit longer before weakening back to a depression later on. Isaac will be weakening soon as it's going to be running into this wind shear of 25 knots here, which will be helping it downgrade to a tropical depression and then maybe further even downgrade into just an open wave. However, past that, it may re-strengthen again and redevelop because there's going to be lower wind shear of just 5 to 10 knots after it goes through this area of shear. So then that's when it may redevelop into a tropical storm and strengthen further. If you look at the forecast track models for Isaac, you can see that most of them do take it somewhere close to Jamaica here, and then they take it into the Western Caribbean, and many take it into the Gulf of Mexico, with one model actually having it impact Florida here. However, I don't think that's likely just yet. However, there is a chance that it will impact Florida at some point, and the strength and intensity still to be determined though. If you look at intensity models, we do see that more models do have it re-strengthening into a tropical storm or higher than they did yesterday. So more models are in agreement that the storm will strengthen over the long term rather than stay weak and stay an open wave. And a couple of models do actually have it reaching hurricane strength in about 4 to 5 days time. So it's definitely possible that Isaac may still strengthen and it still needs to be watched carefully. And of course, the big story of the past several days, the past week even, has been Florence, which is no longer a hurricane, but it is still a strong tropical storm with winds of 65 miles per hour, pressure of 980 millibars, and it is moving to the west at just 5 miles per hour. This thing has just been crawling, it's barely moving, and you can see on the satellite imagery that the center of circulation right here has been basically in the same place for the past 3 to 4 hours, and it's barely moving at all. You can also see on the satellite that the storm is slowly beginning to wind down. However, it will definitely be a slow process as the storm does still have warm waters to draw from just to its south, and it will not weaken significantly yet until it moves further inland, further away from the water. If you look at the live radar loop of Florence, you can see that there's still very heavy rain indicated by the reds and oranges here, impacting areas such as Wilmington and other areas here in North Carolina. And this rain is still going to continue through the overnight hours into tomorrow morning, and it will still be continuing to produce heavy rains for South Carolina as well, as the storm is heading into that region now. And you can see that there have been some tornado warnings popping up here just north of the Wilmington area, and that's typical with strong hurricanes to produce some tornadoes. So there's also a tornado threat with this, and you can also see all the flash flood warnings that are covering pretty much most of the coastal Carolina and even some inland parts too, even all the way up into Raleigh. So this storm is definitely not even anywhere close to done yet, and we will the Carolinas and other areas inland will continue to be seeing its impacts over the next day or two. If you look at the forecast track now, it continues to be forecast to stay a tropical storm through tomorrow night, and it finally weakens to depression by Sunday morning, and then it finally becomes a remnant low sometime around Sunday into Monday, and then the remnants will be moving into areas such as Pennsylvania and New Jersey. The track does have it going right through North Jersey, which is where I am from actually, so I will be receiving the remnants of Florence, and after that it will become an extratropical cyclone, and as it goes offshore into the North Atlantic Ocean. If you look at the discussion for Florence, NHC does have it still at 15 miles per hour 12 hours from now, and in 24 hours there'll still be a tropical storm with winds of 40 miles per hour, and then it will finally weaken to a depression and a remnant low. Of course, the weakening process will be slow as it's a slow-moving system, and it still has those warm waters of the Gulf Stream just off the coast of North Carolina to draw from. Looking at the forecast models now for Florence, you can see that pretty much all of the models do have the remnants going somewhere into Pennsylvania and New Jersey or New York area. If we look at the GFS model over the next 4 to 5 days, the total accumulated precipitation, what's yet to come, that is. The forecast does have the rains of Florence coming up to maybe 16 to 18 inches still, and that's on top of what's already fallen. Some areas have already received up to 18 to 20 inches of rain, so adding another 20 inches of rain on that would be 40 inches, which would be nearing 4 feet of rain for some areas. So that is definitely record breaking for that area, and it's going to cause devastating and damaging effects along with the storm surge and the winds. And if we look at the NAM 12 km model, the 0Z run, the NAM shows similar rainfall amounts as the GFS. However, it has even more rain, and it has areas that could be receiving a further additional amount of up to 2 feet or more on top of the 1 to 2 feet that's already fallen. And some areas could definitely see totals of up to 4 feet of rain, which is absolutely historic and absolutely devastating and catastrophic. And the official U.S. rainfall potential for Florence from the NHC does have another possible up to 20 inches of rain in the Wilmington area. So this is definitely not over yet. There's still going to be a lot of rain and wind coming your way, even if the eye has passed by your area. And the storm surge threat is also still there. As you can see in Pamlico Sound, there is still a potential for up to 3 to even 6 feet of storm surge. Now, after Florence and after Helene, after all these storms are finally done, what do we have anything going on? Well, let's look at the models. So the European model over the next 5 days, of course, has Florence moving further inland and has Helene moving towards Europe, and also has Isaac staying weak and then eventually dissipating. However, it does not redevelop Isaac, and after the 5-day period, the Atlantic does look to be staying quiet, which is definitely good news, as we do need a break after all of this activity. And looking at the GFS model over the next 5 days, we can see a similar result, as the GFS also has little to no activity actually over the next 5 days. There's not a single area of low pressure at all over the entire Atlantic basin on day 5. So the tropics do look to remain quiet after these storms are finally done, which is good news for us. That is all for today. The next update will be tomorrow. Stay safe, everybody.